Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan Chat. Now some of you will be waking up to the news that it's going to be David Silva's last season at City this coming season. Now some of us went to bed with that news ringing in our ears, and we woke up, hoping that it was just a bad dream, and vowing never to eat cheese so late again in the evening. But guys, it's true. David Silva, it's going to be his last season. Now, during the next few days, probably throughout the season, probably every week, there'll be articles by far more eloquent authors than me, or writers and speakers, orators, or whatever you want to call it. They'll write much better stuff than I ever can. But here's my humble offering to the greatest player who's ever worn a City shirt. At a press conference in Gran Canaria, David Silva said reaching a decade is the right time to call it a day. This is the last one, he said. 10 years for me is enough. It's the perfect time for me. Initially, City were talking about 2 years. It completes a cycle. It's a nice round figure. I can never see myself playing against City for another team. So 10 years, that's it. Guys, we knew this day would eventually come, but in our hearts we hoped it never would. But I'll say this one thing up front: it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed that the David Silva shirt will be the biggest selling shirt for City this season, and that's even if we got Messi. That's how highly City fans regard David Silva. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about the guy and him coming to City and what he's achieved at City. I mean, you've all seen him play. Wonderful left foot, mercurial left foot. We've all seen that and the way he dictates games and controls them. So you've seen it with your own eyes. But I'm just going to add a little bit of stats and facts and some opinions and some of his comments to my piece. On the 30th of June 2010, City announced that they'd reached an agreement with Valencia over the transfer of the exciting young attacking midfielder and playmaker David Silva, and that he'd join on a 4-year deal. Now, on the 14th of July, City completed the signing, and he joined a whole host of acquisitions that were paraded to the press. That were Yaya Toure, Alexander Kolarov, Jerome Boateng, okay? And City were lucky to get David Silva. We coveted him from afar, but we were lucky to get him because in the past, I think Barcelona and Real Madrid and City had been interested in him, but his then club Valencia, they didn't have any financial problems. They were quite strong apparently, and they resisted all attempts to sign their best two players, which were David Villa and David Silva. And I understand that City put in a bid, or City were quoted well over £100 million back before 2010 to buy the pair of them. That's David Silva and David Villa. It's unaffordable. That is, even for City's money in those days. I'm not sure if it was pre-Sheikh Mansour as well. So it was just out of the question. But as fate would have it, Valencia suffered some financial issues and they had to sell their best players. So after 6 years at Valencia, David Silva left in 2010 and came to Manchester City. In his first season at City, he won the FA Cup, which signalled an avalanche of winning trophies, domestic trophies at City, culminating in last season's unprecedented domestic treble, where we won everything that was available, in England. Whether you count the Community Shield as a trophy or a +1, we won that. We won the Carabao Cup, we won the FA Cup, and most importantly, we won the Premier League title again, back to back. So, but that first year when we won the FA Cup, that was tough. And David Silva credits Roberto Mancini, the then City manager, for helping him a lot. He said about Roberto Mancini, Roberto Mancini had faith in me. So he'd play Silva. I think the first game he played, he was injured. But he wanted him to play. He had faith in him and he wanted to play him as much as possible. Now, some of us, and probably most people, were worried. We thought when he signed, how would this slim, petite, diminutive slip of a lad cope with the rigours and the roughness of the Premier League. But we've seen in the last 9 years that he's a really tough cookie. He's very competitive and very courageous. In the last 9 years, he's played 282 league games, scoring 54 league goals and providing 83 assists. I think he's almost at 400 games in total for City since he's joined. And he really will go down simply as one of the best attacking midfielders the Premier League has ever seen. Now, you can't also forget that he's won 2 Euro championships with Spain and the World Cup with Spain. He scored 35 international goals, which puts him 4th on the all-time Spanish list. Now, people just wouldn't believe that. He's come up kind of like a dark horse. He's played 125 times for Spain, which leaves him 6th in the all-time list. So he's been a star for club and country. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And with everything, all the honours he's won, absolute star. Now, when you look back at David Silva, and look at the highlights and what stands out, for me, one of the playing highlights was that 6-1 against United when we battered them at their place, and David Silva scored a goal, and he did one of the most beautiful, sumptuous assists that you could wish to see with that beautiful left foot of his. It's magical wand. And if you haven't seen it lately, go and watch that game again. Go and watch his the setup for that Dzeko goal at the end. Pure class, pure poetry in motion. You can't ask for a more beautiful sight than that. But one of the things that really sticks in my mind about David Silva is how he coped with the situation about his prematurely born son, Matteo, during our Centurion-winning season. Now, obviously, that was a really, really tough time for him, his family, and for the baby Matteo. So it's interesting to get some of his comments on that particular time. It was really tough. It was so difficult being in hospital for so long. You can't stop thinking about it. Besides, he was in Spain, meaning I had to travel a lot and I could hardly train. I didn't sleep much. I wasn't eating well. But luckily, the team was doing really well and that helped me a lot. The only times I could get it out of my mind was on the pitch. Then I would start thinking about it once the match was over. But yes, it was a really good way to escape. Football is what we love and enjoy most. Thankfully, and we saw at that Huddersfield Town game when I think baby Matteo was paraded on the pitch, an outpouring of emotion. And as Stu Brennan, I think, said at the time, there probably wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was fantastic to see the struggles that David had been through, and his baby and his family, in that Centurion season, and he still played at an unbelievable level. It was incredible to have such torment going on in your life, and if I'm sure any of you guys who've even had your kids have been ill or sick or whatever, and being in hospital, it does really get to you. And the way he could still play football at that level that he played that Centurion season was absolutely incredible. And I've got to say, big ups to Pep for his understanding of that personal situation. Big up to Khaldoon Al-Mubarak and Sheikh Mansour for their understanding of that situation. And I don't know the right words, guys. As I said, their understanding and the way they helped David Silva as much as they could, and they said you can take as much time off as you need. City, it's a great club, great people in the right positions, and fantastic way they look after the City family. A couple of other things. So we now look, it's his last season, and the only thing David Silva hasn't won, really, that's a major honour, is the Champions League. So some of his comments on the Champions League, and this was done a year ago after we won, we were Centurions, but this is what he said. Yes, I really want to win it, but ultimately, all the hard work that goes on into every day is to win the Premier League. Every weekend and every time you come to train, it's all about winning the game at the weekend. There are less matches in the Champions League, and of course I'd love to win it. But if I can win more league titles, I'll also be really glad. Guys, that's music to most City fans' ears. Yes, we'd like to win the Champions League, but the Premier League's our bread and butter. It's what we want to win as often as we can. As I said, Champions League's a bonus. It's a cup competition. Look at Liverpool. They lost 4 out of 13 games on the way to winning the Champions League. City lost 4 games in the season on the way to winning the domestic treble. I'd rather have the domestic treble or even that Premier League title than the Champions League if I'm offered both. Like David Silva, like Bill Shankly, go for the Premier League every day. And when we're talking about his highlights, what David Silva believes his highlights at City are so far. And, it's very interesting to hear what he believes his highlights are and to see if it's whether it's the same as you. But this is what David said. For me, it was that first trophy I won here, the FA Cup. That was a turning point for success. Once you win, you get used to winning. And that's not a bad thing. That FA Cup was a real highlight. Well, he's right. You can't argue with him. It was the start of everything, and he's won 2 FA Cups at City, 4 League Cups, and 4 beautiful Premier League titles. Now, as he said, it's going to be 10 years. So he's won 4 league titles in 9 years. For me, it would be fantastic if you could round it up. 5 in 10 years would be awesome. It's not just centurions and 98 pointers and back-to-back titles, but getting 3 on the bounce, that continues the elevation of this City team, this City Premier League team. We're already, in my opinion, better than anybody else in the Premier League era, in those 26, 27 years, whatever it is, for the Premier League. We're simply the best. And it just keeps elevating. So getting another title would just keep on cementing our position at the top of the pile. So what's he going to do now? What's he going to do after City? What's he going to do after one more season? Well, he's only 33 now. He'll be 34 in a year's time. He still has a lot to offer at a very high level. But one of his ultimate aims, and he said it, I think several times, is he's always wanted to play for his local team. That's Las Palmas. And personally, I expect him to do so. So guys, it's David Silva's last season. Enjoy it, It seems like a procession. We lost Joe Hart, Zabaleta, Yaya Toure, Vincent Kompany. We'll lose David Silva this season and possibly Aguero the season after that. So, all our old guard, the guys who were here at the start and have won several trophies each with us. Even Joe Hart won a couple of Premier Leagues and League Cup and FA Cup and stuff. So the guys who were there at the start, the big names, they'll all be gone. But City will move on. We'll carry on. We've got new stars taking their places like Raheem Sterling, KDB, Bernardo Silva, hopefully Leroy Sané, Emerick Laporte and others. So, City will carry on, but it will be a really sad day when David does finally leave, and there won't be a dry eye in the house. But guys, it's his last season. Enjoy it, lap it up, and soak in the atmosphere for whatever game you go to, or if you're watching it on TV, soak him up, because he's one of the best players the Premier League has ever seen. Forget talk about the best overseas player, one of the best players ever, and in my opinion anyway, and many City fans, he's the best player we've ever seen to wear a City shirt. David Silva, El Maggio, te amamos.